Hey there! Thanks for listening in, and welcome to another Ellipsis Drive podcast. Here we dive into the stories of people, companies, and technologies that transform and empower spatial data-driven industries. My name is Rosalie van der Maas, and today we have Chris Robson with us, calling in from Canada. It's great to have you, Chris.
Thanks for having me, Rosalie.
My pleasure. Chris is co-founder and CEO of Wyvern, and Wyvern is an awesome business on a mission to uncover the Earth's invisible truth with high-resolution and hyperspectral data from space. I'll keep the intro short because I have no doubt that Chris will be a far better storyteller than I am as far as Wyvern is concerned. So I'll ask you, Chris, to tell us a bit more about yourself and about Wyvern's journey so far.
Yeah, for sure. So, Chris Robson, CEO of Wyvern, one of the co-founders. My own background is in building and launching cube satellites. Myself and my co-founders, we were part of the team that built and launched Alberta, Canada's first satellite back in 2017 on board the ISS as part of the QB50 mission. So we started Wyvern back in 2018, and we started with a big goal in mind. We were really excited about all these skills that we just developed for space, but we also wanted to do something good for Earth. And as a result, we said, you know what? The thing that's missing in the market right now is hyperspectral. We could do a lot of good for Earth if we were able to get this image modality up in space and operating on behalf of humans everywhere. And that's one of the big reasons why we started the company. In a nutshell, what we do, we take high resolution, hyperspectral images of Earth from space. We are right now we are the highest resolution delivering images from Earth from space right now. We also do this thing on the side called deployable optics, which we're developing for the long term that allows us to get really high resolution images from a much smaller satellite package. The key thing about hyperspectral allows you to see the chemistry of whatever it is that you're looking at. So where a typical image, you might identify a forest or a tree or a river or mountain ranges. With hyperspectral, you can see the species of tree, whether there's a pine beetle infestation, whether there's methane leaking out of a old oil well, whether there is a certain mineral in an area. There's a lot of really cool things you can detect with it. Just to wrap up, right now we've got three satellites in space delivering imagery to customers, which is really exciting. We're based in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and we've passed the 35 people mark. And yeah, that's really Wyvern in a nutshell.
That's really great. So you have had commercial operations for the last 6 months, 12 months or so. How long has it been?
Oh, it's been about 8 months.
8 months. All right, great. So reflecting on those 8 months, what have customers been saying about your hyperspectral data so far?
Well, first off, they've been really impressed with the high spatial and spectral resolution. One of the things we've noticed, and our customers have noticed in particular, has been the amount of insights you're able to draw from it versus traditional satellite imagery or even from Sentinel-2. One of the really exciting things that I've seen is being able to classify tree species at a level that you just can't do with Sentinel-2, where trying to get distinguish between certain species of tree is almost difficult, is either incredibly difficult or nearly impossible. But with our data, it's seamless and easy. We've also had a lot of praise from customers about our licensing. Our licensing is pretty flexible. It's simple. Customers are able to access our data and procure our data really easily. We don't have like 17 different types of licenses that you have to navigate through.
Refreshing. Yeah.
Definitely.
So as far as like where do you think the biggest differences are between what you offer in terms of licensing and what is really a market standard these days? Like where do you really break with that standard?
So, like aside from say Umbra, because Umbra they do an amazing job with satellite licensing. That's even simpler than what we do. The way that we differentiate on licensing is we've got really two types of licenses. One is you buy the imagery from us and you can share it with whoever, you can sell it to whoever, you can do whatever you want with it. It's yours. There's no there's no limitations except for maybe trade and regulatory limitations. Now, this is what we call our external use license, and then we've got our internal use license. And this one is you can with any of your end customers, you can sell them that data. They can use it for any application, but you just can't share it with other people. You can't share it on the news. You can't post a picture of it. So it's just the two really simple licenses versus say others in the field that have. I mentioned 17 before, but that's actually not an over exaggeration. There's some folks out there that have something like 17 licenses where There is a small difference between these licenses on who you can share it with, and what you can do with it, and they're a few dollars per square kilometer more, and it goes up and up and up like that. And so what you do is you end up getting in a situation where, say, like a government agency has to buy the same imagery again,
Mm.
from the same supplier because the other government agency already bought it, can't share it with them.
Yeah, yeah, that's frustrating from an end user perspective. I've heard many stories around well, yeah, the frustration and the friction around that type of licensing, especially the frustration when you indeed know that a particular piece of data is already present in your organization and you just can't get your hands on it because the license won't allow. So yeah, as I said,
100%.
that's refreshing. And you also mentioned that they're very impressed with like the spatial and the spectral resolution. So what exactly does that look like right now for everything that's operational?
So right now we're at 5 meters spatial resolution.
Oh, awesome.
Spectral resolution, depending on the band, we're somewhere between the 18 nanometer and 32 nanometer range.
Hmm.
Um, uh, a lot of our customers have just never had data like that before. Most of them are used to 4 bands or 8 bands, uh, or the Sentinel-2 imagery data sets, but very few people have had that much spectral diversity.
Yeah, that's really awesome. So, considering that data type, what have been some of the challenges and obstacles that customers and early users are facing as they develop these new applications with this data?
Oh, I mean, a really big one is definitely management and distribution of the data. That's a big new challenge that a lot of our customers face. One of our images is anywhere from between 5 and 10 times as dense as a similar data set that's multispectral. Managing that and distributing that can be tough. Processing it can be an interesting new cost. I haven't actually heard any of our customers say that that's been a big challenge, but we'll see what happens in the near future. The other thing that is brand new to a lot of our customers is a number of our customers don't know everything that our data can do. There's a lot of new applications that our data can uncover, and but that also means a lot of testing and validation is required for on our customer side to refine all that data to very specific use cases that are effective and also useful from a commercial perspective. So that's been a new challenge. We've also got that customer profile though that already understands hyperspectral and knows exactly what to do with it already. But as you can imagine, there's not as many of those as there are of the multispectral folks.
Yeah, yeah, I was actually wondering because you add so much sort of wavelength possibilities to, for example, what Sentinel-2 places in the market, which for many is a benchmark and is like the standard. I can imagine you also get quite some interest from scientists and research institutes to leverage your data. I was wondering, how do you work with that? Like, I assume you welcome it because they can indeed help you and help your downstream market discover more and more applications. So, yeah, yeah, tell me a bit more about this particular part of the job.
Oh yeah, we love it when especially academic institutions come to us and say, "Hey, we've got this cool application online. Can we test your data out with it?" Most of the time, interestingly enough, because of where we've chosen to take images, a lot of those academics are asking for images of places we've already captured. In that case, it's really simple for us to work with them. That's been pretty exciting though. Seeing some of the new ideas that I've come up with. I can't tell you about all the really really cool ideas that our commercial customers have come up with. Those are some pretty. I've been surprised, but the academic side has been interesting, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I guess I suppose the results that flow out of that are indeed sort of public space, so you can actually go ahead and share that with the market, and with those who are interested, right? Because yeah, of course, those with commercial applications may also be very proud of like a unique application that they have found and that they very much feel protective around in terms of IP. But is that like a pretty even split for you guys right now, like scientific use cases and commercial use cases, or is it mostly commercial?
Oh, right now it's mostly commercial.
Mhm.
We've had a really big portion. Interestingly enough, actually, the majority of our customers have come from commercial versus from civil, and then the last would be academic. Academic hasn't been as big of a pull as I thought it would be, but it also I could easily say that commercial has been much larger than we thought it would.
Yeah, that is like a little bit surprising, but also Very nice, I suppose. It's a must feel very healthy that you have so much commercial interest at a relatively early stage.
It's very promising. I'm
Yeah.
really excited about it. It also sort of bucks the trend of what I've come to expect for Earth observation. I was expecting a lot of our revenue would be heavily weighted towards government and military, or sorry, civil and military applications versus the commercial side. But that's one of the things that surprised me.
Yeah, that's really cool to learn actually. And so you mentioned, as far as the scientific application goes, you have some areas of interest that are sort of commonplace between various applications. Like, what was your strategy in sort of, yeah, prioritizing various areas of interest over others?
So our strategy for areas of interest, well, one, either it was an area of interest that is commonly visited by the Sentinel-2 satellites.
Hmm.
That's been really helpful, both from a calibration perspective, but also because, you can directly compare our data with something that Sentinel-2 captured and was used for a scientific quality level of calibration. And you can compare the two. You could see change detection. You could see the performance between our images and Sentinel-2 when a specific study was done. So that was one thing we did, is we made sure to capture areas that Sentinel-2 regularly captured, which were considered, high revisit calibration and test sites. Otherwise, what we did is we started capturing places around the world where there was a lot of public interest
Hmm.
or where there were really cool features of Earth. The really cool features of Earth so far haven't like that hasn't really been the thing that's been looked for by academia, but the places where that have received a lot of public interest, that has been. So, for example, we took a few images of what happened to Florida post hurricane. We've got images of LA and the and California post wildfire, or well, during the wildfire.
Yeah, I always find quite interesting to sort of learn what like the early strategy is for indeed areas of interest in terms of what to focus on with new satellite resources for indeed calibration purposes and market education purposes. But it sounds like you're pretty happy with the way you've done things, or is there anything that you would have changed if you had Captain Hindsight sitting next to you at the time?
Oh, I mean, there's lots of things I would have changed if I had Captain Hindsight sitting next to me. Oh, geez. Um, if there was one really big thing I would have changed, I would have made sure in the early design phase of our satellites that we had more data coming down. Um, there's a few other things I would have changed that I won't talk about for confidentiality purposes, but I think another thing I might have changed to is I might have put up a couple more of the same sensors initially too,
Hmm.
just because we've received so much interest that but we've also received a lot of interest that requires higher revisits than we're already giving. And we can't serve those if they require those higher revisits. So adding some more sensors would have been something I definitely would have changed. What else would I have changed there? No, I think those were so yeah. Getting a higher amount of downlink, that's the really big thing.
Hmm.
We've just had so many requests for data. I might have also gone to a bigger satellite platform.
Hmm.
We're doing CubeSats right now, and CubeSats are really great for like demonstration purposes, but they've got limitations that something like a small sat or an ESPA class satellite bus doesn't have. If I could have, I would have moved to a larger satellite bus, but
Yeah, but
it is what it is.
only because everything turns out to be great right now. So I suppose that's still due process. But that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, thanks for sharing. So what do customers have to look forward to for 2025? Like what's on the roadmap?
Oh boy, we got a lot of great things coming up. So first off, by the time this podcast releases, we'll have our open data program released, working with you folks, Ellipsis Drive. That's going to be really exciting. Having open access to a bunch of hyperspectral data sets that have multiple revisits in some cases, so people can look at change detection, and also just kicking off the ability of folks, especially academic and government, who or early startups that just want to try out hyperspectral data, but have always been challenged by the high price of geospatial data and tasking. That's going to be really exciting. I'm also excited to see the folks use Ellipsis Drive for that. I've played around with it a bunch. I've got my own user account, and I think it's pretty damn smooth. Some other things that are going to be really exciting this year. We've got increased constellation capacity coming online. So we've got our fourth and fifth satellites launching this year, both of which have a much higher downlink, downlink, and are also on a much larger satellite bus.
There you go.
That's gonna be super cool.
Sounds like it. Like yeah, and we're super happy to support that open data effort. That's going to be awesome. Um, so yeah, indeed, lots of things to look forward to, and lots of things to perhaps catch up on as the year draws to a close. But unfortunately, with that, it is time to wrap up. So on behalf of our listeners, thank you so much for sharing your story and your insights. And if you're tuning in and you'd like to know more about Wyvern and the Open Data Initiative, for example, we'll leave some links in the description so you can find the resources you're looking for. Thanks for being here with us today, and until the next one.
Thanks, Rosalie.